Welcome to Boring Tales, where we tell the most boring stories you'll ever love. This is the place where nothing much happens, and that's just how we like it. You're about to drift into a slower time, a quieter world, where each moment passes gently, without urgency, without hurry, without anything pulling you away from rest. Let yourself settle in. There's nothing you need to do now. No decisions. No demands. Just calm voices, soft thoughts, and the gentle rhythm of a life far removed from today. Tonight, we'll visit the quiet routine of a man named Thomas, a baker, in a small medieval village. A man of flour and fire, rising with the dark, kneading in silence, feeding his neighbors one loaf at a time. Let's begin with the earliest hour of morning. Long before the cock crows. Long before the streets stir. When the world is mostly still. And Thomas begins to wake. The room is dark. The thatched roof creaks softly with the wind. A wooden shutter rattles, but only faintly. It's the kind of noise that doesn't disturb, but simply marks the passing of another quiet night. Thomas lies in his straw-stuffed mattress, on a wooden frame that groans under his weight. It's not uncomfortable, not exactly, but it's no feather bed. Just layers of linen, wool, and flattened straw. He breathes in slowly. The air is cool. It smells of bread from the day before, and ashes, and a faint trace of damp stone. The kind of smells that never really leave a bakehouse. They simply rest in the walls, in the floorboards, in the air. His feet poke out from beneath a heavy wool blanket, one made by a neighbor 2 winters ago. It's scratchy, but warm. Threadbare in some places, especially at the edges, but still serviceable. Thomas doesn't rush to rise. He lies still for a while, letting his eyes adjust to the faint blue light that leaks in through the cracks around the door. He knows what time it is. He doesn't need a bell, or a clock, or a rooster. His body knows. He always wakes at this hour. Before the sun. Before the fire. Before the first loaf can even be imagined. He listens. Not for anything in particular. Just to the hush. The silence of the village sleeping. Only the wind outside. And the tiny pop of an ember in the hearth. Nothing else. Slowly, Thomas pushes back the blanket. He swings one leg out, then the other. Moving without sound. The floor is cold. Stone, uneven, and dusted with flour from yesterday. He stands. Not quickly. He's in no rush. He has time. Plenty of time. His knees creak a little. That's normal. They've always done that, ever since last spring's rain soaked his joints for too many days in a row. But it doesn't bother him now. He simply stretches, reaches for the beam above, feels the stretch in his arms and shoulders. The robe he puts on is simple, a thick tunic, made of rough-spun wool, hanging to his knees. It's the same one he wears every morning. The same familiar weave, the same familiar smell, of smoke, and yeast, and flour. He slips his feet into worn leather clogs. They're by the door, as always. He never puts them anywhere else. One is slightly more cracked than the other. It squeaks sometimes, but not this morning. This morning, it's quiet. He lights a small tallow candle, striking flint to steel with practiced hands. It takes a few tries, but it always does. A spark. A whisper of smoke. Then flame. The flicker dances against the stone walls, throwing shadows across the room. He doesn't need much light. He knows every corner of this space. The candle rests in a shallow holder on the table. The same table he'll use to shape dough, later on, when the flour's been sifted and the oven's been stoked. But for now, it's just morning. The earliest hour. When the world is still soft. Still slow. Still asleep. Thomas opens the small door to the back room, his bakehouse. The space where the oven lives. The place where flour becomes bread. Where dough becomes livelihood. But he doesn't enter yet. First, he goes to the basin. To wash. To clear away the last of sleep. He pours cold water from a jug, the same ceramic jug he's used since the summer markets. It makes a soft glug as it tips. The water splashes into the basin. A shallow wooden bowl, lined with metal, cool to the touch. Thomas dips his hands in. Washes his face. The cold startles him slightly, but not unpleasantly. It wakes him, gently. He dries his face on a linen cloth. Then folds it neatly, places it back in its spot. Always in its spot. Because order matters in the morning. Routine matters. Everything has a place. Every step has its rhythm. The oven still sleeps. The dough still waits in sacks. The village still dreams. And Thomas moves slowly through the morning. With quiet purpose. With steady hands. With the first breath of the day rising like steam from the hearth. Thomas reaches for the old iron key. It hangs on a wooden peg near the bakehouse door, always in the same spot. It's heavy for its size, worn smooth from years of use. The top is looped with a leather thong, cracked and dark with age, but still strong. He slips it into the keyhole with care. The lock clicks, a dull, familiar sound. He turns the handle, and the wooden door groans open. The air inside the bakehouse is cooler still. It smells of ash, charcoal, and yesterday's crust. The scent lingers. It never quite leaves. Stone walls enclose the space, thick and steady. A single window, shuttered for the night, lets in no light. Not yet. Only the candle in Thomas's hand offers a warm flicker to greet the silence. He steps in, each footfall soft against the packed earth floor. The ground is uneven in places, a little sunken near the hearth, a little cracked near the basin. But Thomas knows every dip, every rise. He's walked this path too many times to stumble. His candle casts long shadows across the benches. Wooden tables stand still, dusty with fine flour. There are no signs of life yet, no bubbling dough, no warm crusts. Just tools waiting in their places. Just stillness. He sets the candle on the thick center table. It wobbles slightly in its holder, then settles. The flame flickers once, twice, then calms. Thomas stands in the middle of the room. Just stands. Breathing it in. The cold. The dark. The memory of heat still sleeping in the stones. He turns to the oven. A dome of clay and stone. Built into the wall, its mouth blackened from countless firings. It rests now, empty, cold, like a great sleeping creature. He doesn't light it yet. That will come. Soon. But first. He prepares the space. He fetches the broom. A simple thing, bundle of reeds tied to a worn wooden handle. The bristles are uneven, some frayed, some snapped. But it works well enough. It always has. He begins to sweep. Slow strokes. Back and forth. From corner to corner. Gathering yesterday's dust and flour into small, gentle piles. He moves carefully, methodically, as if each sweep matters. There is no rush. The oven isn't ready. The dough hasn't been started. There is only this. The sound of straw bristles brushing the floor. A soft hush. Like wind through tall grass. He gathers the dust into a pan. Tosses it into the ash bin near the wall. Then returns the broom to its hook. Just so. Now the tables. He wipes each one with a damp cloth, wringing it out first in a bowl of cold water. It makes a light splashing sound, nothing sharp, just soft and rhythmic. He moves slowly. A circle here. A pass along the edge. Underneath the flour bin. Over the kneading bench. The cloth picks up yesterday's remnants, bits of bran, flakes of crust, a few wayward seeds from a rye loaf. When he finishes, he folds the cloth in half, then in half again, then lays it across the side of the water bowl. He stops. Takes a moment. Hands on the edge of the table. Eyes closed. Breathing. This is how the day begins. Not with fire. Not with flour. But with quiet preparation. With cleaning. With care. The light outside has not changed. It's still the hour before dawn. Still dark. Thomas walks back to the far wall, to the shelves where he keeps the wood. Stacked in neat rows. Oak on the left, Pine on the right. Kindling in a basket at the bottom. He selects the pine today. Soft wood for a fast burn. To warm the oven's belly. To bring it slowly, gently, to life. But he doesn't light it yet. Not quite. He arranges the logs in a tidy pile, just beside the hearth mouth. 2 small sticks. 1 larger. A few curls of straw from the basket nearby. Then he steps back again. Everything is in its place. Everything is as it should be. The room smells of cold stone and readiness. Thomas leans on the table's edge, waiting just a moment longer, letting the quiet settle again. This is the best part of the morning, he always thinks. The part before the fire. The part before the day begins. He listens once more. To the silence. To the stillness. To the peaceful emptiness of a bakehouse about to wake. Thomas bends at the knees, his back careful and slow, as he kneels before the mouth of the oven. The floor is cool beneath him. The hearthstone, wide, dark, cracked with use, greets him like an old friend. He looks into the oven. It is deep, rounded like a belly, lined with soot-blackened stone. Its walls hold the memory of 1,000 firings. 1,000 loaves. 1,000 early mornings like this one. He leans closer, breath steady. His hand reaches for the kindling, thin pine twigs and curled straw he placed moments ago. He arranges them in a small, neat bundle. A little nest of flame to be. The candlelight flickers behind him, casting long shadows across the bakehouse. Everything is still, except the small curl of Thomas's fingers as he strikes flint to steel. Click. No spark. He tries again. Click. Still none. But this is normal. It never comes right away. Thomas doesn't rush. He doesn't frown. He simply breathes again. Steadies his hand. And tries once more. Click. A spark. Small, sudden, bright. It lands on the straw, a hiss of promise, a thread of smoke curling upward. He leans in, gently, cupping his hands near the flame, shielding it from the draft. He blows, slowly, just once. Then again. The ember glows red. Then orange. Then, finally, yellow. A flame catches. Then another. The straw begins to crinkle and curl. The kindling pops softly, a quiet crackle like footsteps on dry leaves. Thomas watches. Always watches. He never turns away too soon. Fire is a living thing. It must be watched, spoken to in silence. It must be given time. The flames climb. They find the pine logs, licking along their edges, coaxing them into heat. The oven mouth glows faintly. The air begins to shift. It's subtle, but Thomas feels it, the faintest breath of warmth pushing outward from the oven's core. He adds another piece of wood. Not too big. Not too soon. Let the fire grow at its own pace. The bakehouse smells different now. Less like stone. More like smoke. Like warmth returning to a place long used to it. Thomas stands slowly, his knees clicking as he rises. He wipes his hands on his robe. A habit. There's no flour yet. But still, he does it anyway. He turns back to the bench, glancing at the small sand glass on the shelf. It's turned upside down, but he doesn't flip it. Not yet. There's no need to mark time so closely today. The fire will tell him when it's ready. The stones will speak in their quiet language, heat radiating through their skin, changing color, breathing warmth. Thomas leans against the table. Not idly. Just resting. Observing. The fire crackles. It grows, but slowly. He watches the shadows change shape as the flame brightens the oven mouth. He listens to the low hum of burning. It's not loud. Nothing in this room is loud. Not at this hour. The smoke rises through the chimney flue, a thin thread of grey dissolving into the morning darkness. Thomas breathes deeply. The fire's scent is comforting. Wood, heat, smoke, all familiar. He doesn't think much. There's nothing to think about. Only to do. Only to be. The oven is waking now. Not hot yet. But warm. Alive. The stones will take time. They always do. Thomas steps closer once more. He lifts his hand, holds it near the open mouth, testing. Still cool. Still waiting. He smiles slightly, just a twitch of the mouth. No one sees it. But it's there. This is his favorite part of the day. Not the baking. Not the selling. But this moment, when fire returns to a cold oven, and the promise of bread is still just a whisper. The fire breathes behind him now. A steady warmth. Not fierce, not yet. Just a quiet presence, a glow. Thomas turns from the oven, his back warmed by its breath, his hands empty. It's time to prepare the space. He crosses the bakehouse floor, boots soft against the packed dirt. Each step echoes in the still room, not loud, but noticeable. A soft reminder that he's moving and the bakehouse is waking with him. He moves to the side bench. The tools rest in their familiar places. A wooden peel, long-handled, worn at the edges. A paddle to slide bread in and out of the oven. Its surface darkened by years of flour and fire. Next to it, a broad metal scraper, used to lift and portion dough. The edge dull, but still strong. Still trusted. There is also the scoring knife, thin, curved like a sickle. Used to slash the tops of loaves before baking, so the crust can bloom. Each item is lifted slowly, inspected in the candlelight. Turned once in the hand, checked for wear, for cracks, for rust. None are new. All are old. But they work. Because Thomas works with them. Because he knows how to hold them, how to clean them, how to use them with respect. He sets them down again. Just so. Each in the same place as always. Each within reach. Then he moves to the large table, his mixing bench. It is broad, solid, made of heavy oak. The grain is stained with years of dough. There are scratches, dents, small patches worn smooth by countless kneading hands. He runs his fingers across the surface. The wood is cool. A little damp from the cloth he used earlier. A little sticky in spots, remnants from the last bake. He takes a dry cloth from a nail on the wall. It's rough, threadbare in the middle. He wipes the bench again, with slow, even strokes. Left to right. Top to bottom. No flour yet. No dough. Just preparation. A quiet rhythm builds. The hush of cloth on wood. The steady breath of fire behind him. The stillness of early morning folding itself into routine. He straightens the corners of the cloth. Folds it once. Twice. Then hangs it back on its nail. There's a small crack in the corner of the table. He notices it again. He always does. It hasn't grown. Not yet. But he presses it gently with his thumb. Checks the edge. Still holding. Still strong. Thomas steps back. Looks at the bench. His bench. Ready now. Clean. Waiting. It's not time for flour yet. First. He'll need water. But before he goes to fetch it, he stops once more. Hand on the edge of the table. Looking at the room. Fire behind him. Tools beside him. Table ready. The bakehouse feels full now, not with sound, not with movement, but with readiness. With purpose. And still. Outside, the sky remains dark. The village still sleeps. The crows have not yet called. But here, in this quiet place, Thomas is already an hour into his day. He picks up the empty pail by the door. Its wooden slats bound with iron rings. The handle creaks. The bottom leaks just a little, but only when carried too fast. He won't carry it fast. He pulls his cloak from the peg, throws it over his shoulders, and lifts the pail. Out into the morning air again. To the well. To the cold water. To the next step in the quiet rhythm of his work. Thomas steps out into the chill of the morning air, the pail in one hand, his cloak pulled around his shoulders. The village is still asleep. Roofs of thatch lie dark and still, outlined only faintly by the blue-grey of pre-dawn. No footsteps, no chatter, No doors creaking open. Just the soft crunch of Thomas's clogs on the dirt path. He walks slowly. Not because of the cold, but because there's no reason to hurry. The fire is warming the oven, the bakehouse is clean, and the dough cannot begin without water. The well sits near the center of the village square, a sturdy structure of stone and timber. Its bucket hangs from a thick rope wound around a heavy wooden spindle, with a creaky crank on one side. Thomas sets down his pail. It leans gently against the stone base of the well, tilting just slightly, resting in its familiar waiting position. He grips the crank and begins to turn. Clack, clack, clack. The rope unwinds. Down goes the bucket. Down into the dark, still water below. He listens. The faint splash reaches his ears. He knows the sound. Knows the depth. Knows when it has reached the bottom. He waits just a moment, then slowly turns the crank in the other direction. Clack, clack, clack. The wooden spool groans softly. The rope draws upward, damp now. He watches as the bucket reappears, water sloshing near its rim, glistening in the low light. When it reaches the top, he lifts it carefully, both hands steady, no splashing. No need for haste. He pours the water into his pail. It gurgles as it fills, steam curling faintly into the air from the contact with the chilled bucket. He lowers the bucket into the well once more. Another crank. Another weight. Another pour. 2 fillings. That's all he needs. Enough to mix dough, enough to clean bowls, enough to begin the morning's bread. When he's done, he wipes his hands on the edge of his cloak. The water clings to his knuckles. Cold. Sharp. But it passes. He picks up the pail, two-handed, balanced against his hip, and walks slowly back to the bakehouse. The village remains still. A faint chimney trail curls up from the far end, perhaps the blacksmith is stirring, or maybe the shepherd's wife. But no voices. Not yet. Back inside the bakehouse, Thomas sets the pail down on the side bench. He removes the lid, lets the steam drift up, and places a ladle nearby. He doesn't touch the water yet. It must rest. Settle. Warm slightly by the fire's reach. There is no rush. Only readiness. Only calm. Thomas turns to the flour bins. They sit in the corner, low, broad wooden chests with hinged lids that creak slightly when opened. He lifts the first lid. It smells of rye. Earthy, dense. The flour is coarse and darker than the others, a little heavier to the touch. He reaches in with a wooden scoop, draws up a slow, even portion, and lets it fall back in a soft cascade. The sound is gentle, a dry whisper of grain and air. He closes the lid. Moves to the second bin. This one holds wheat flour, paler, finer, sifted last week from sacks brought in from the miller. The smell is lighter, but sweet in its own way. He tests this too, scoop, pour, watch it settle. Each bin is checked. Each flour weighed by feel and sound and smell. He moves to the flour sacks, linen bags bound with twine. He unties the first, slipping the knot free with practiced fingers. The flour inside is still cool. He presses his hand into it, just to check. It yields under his palm, then fills in the shape once he lifts away. Still good. Still dry. Still ready. He ties the sack again. Moves to the next. Repeats the ritual. Nothing rushed. Nothing skipped. Once the sacks are closed, he lifts one onto his shoulder, a slow rise, a turn, a soft thud as it lands on the mixing bench. He wipes his hands on his robe. Then begins preparing the bowls. 3 wide mixing bowls, each carved from wood, each one slightly different in shape. He lines them up. Places a scoop in the first. A cloth over the second. A pinch bowl of salt beside the third. This is the heart of the preparation. Water ready. Flour measured. Bowls aligned. Oven warm. Everything waiting. Thomas doesn't speak. He never does at this hour. He moves in silence. In rhythm. In peace. The day hasn't truly begun yet. But it's close. Very close. He leans once more against the table, feeling the warmth from the hearth brush the backs of his legs. Outside, the sky is a shade lighter. Not bright. Not yet. But the dark is softening. He closes his eyes. Listens. Not for noise, but for stillness. The bakehouse is ready. And so is he. The fire crackles softly in the corner. Not roaring, just a gentle pulse of heat. Enough to warm the stones, to breathe into the dough as it rests. Thomas moves with quiet purpose now. The moment has come, the water drawn, the flour weighed, the bakehouse awake. He stands before the mixing bench. The 3 bowls sit in a row, broad, deep, heavy. Each one smooth from years of use, edges rounded by time. He reaches for the first bowl. His hand rests on its rim a moment, just to feel the grain of the wood, the weight of it beneath his fingers. He likes this one best. It holds well. Doesn't wobble on the bench. It's steady. He begins with water. The ladle dips into the pail, a slow scoop. The water drips back as he lifts. Thin, clear, cold. He pours it gently into the bowl. Not all at once. Just a little to start. The surface of the wood darkens as the water spreads. Then flour. From the waiting sack, he dips the scoop into the soft mound. The flour clings to the wood, a pale dust that floats with the movement. He pours slowly into the bowl, a soft white cloud settling into the water. It doesn't mix yet. It rests there, a quiet meeting of grain and liquid. Another scoop. Then another. A soft mound begins to form in the center. He stirs with his hands. Always with his hands. Fingers open, palms curved, he folds the flour gently, letting the water soak into its edges. The mixture is sticky at first, uneven, lumpy, pulling at his skin. But he works slowly. Patiently. Drawing the flour from the edges inward, folding it over and over. The bowl creaks softly with the motion. The dough clings and slips, thickening with every turn. He stops, wipes his hands on the cloth, and reaches for a small stone jar on the shelf. Yeast. Not the powdered kind. This is wild and alive, fed from yesterday's batch, kept warm through the night near the oven's edge. He opens the jar. A faint sour scent rises, earthy, tangy, familiar. He lifts a wooden spoonful. Thick, pale, bubbling just slightly. He stirs it into the mixture. Not quickly. He swirls it through the wet dough, watching as it disappears, blending slowly, changing the smell of the bowl. The flour drinks in the yeast. The water carries it through. He adds more flour. More water. A little at a time. Scoop, pour, stir. Scoop, pour, fold. The rhythm is soft, but steady. A lullaby of motion. No rush. No need. Soon, the mixture begins to take shape, less wet, more firm. Still sticky, but changing. Thomas leans his weight into the bowl, both hands working now. Kneading, pressing, folding. The dough is born slowly. With touch. With time. With care. Thomas shifts his stance. Both feet firm on the floor. Shoulders loose. Arms steady. The dough sits heavy in the bowl now, shapeless but promising. Warm to the touch. Sticky in places, but changing. He dusts the bench with flour. A soft cloud rises, then falls again in silence. With both hands, he lifts the dough from the bowl. It stretches slightly as he lifts, then drops with a soft thump onto the floured surface. It rests there. A pale, uneven mass. Still rough. Still waiting. He begins to knead. One hand presses down. The other folds the dough inward. Then he turns it. And presses again. Down. Fold. Turn. Down. Fold. Turn. Thank you for resting with Boring Tales. If you're still awake, feel free to let the next episode play. Or drift gently into sleep. And if you're enjoying these quiet stories, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing the calm.